Okay guys, it is finally the day I'm going to be digging the chilies out of here. The space is needed for the spinach and all the kind of seedlings that I've got to go in, and also it is just getting a bit too cold in here, so trying to make a decision about who to save. But the lemon drop's definitely staying. I've got 2 Haraneros. I've actually got 3, but one of them is a bit of a weedy plant, so I'm not even going to try and save that one. I've got 2 Haraneros, 1 lemon drop. I've got 2 black jalapeños as well, which I'm going to try and save, because the one that I overwintered last year that was really successful was a jalapeno. It wasn't a black one, it's just a standard green one, but it did really, really well. In fact, I've just got him sat in the border. Let me get him for you. So this is the one that I overwintered last year. You can see it's got its really old stick in the middle. That was last year's growth. I just chopped it off there, and it worked an absolute treat. We had really early jalapenos. So that is what I'm going to try and do with the others today. They're all going into the same size pot as this. Difference being that this one was actually grown in this pot in its original fruiting season, and then I just cut it back and kept it in the same pot. Whereas obviously I planted these ones into the bed in here. So I'm going to have to disturb them quite a lot more than I disturbed this one. But, well, it's worth a go, isn't it? Basically, it's worth a go. I'm still going to start some off early next year, because by the time these start kind of coming to life again, it's going to be a bit late to be planting the chilies, because I'm planning to sow my chilies on the 1st of January this year. In fact, I aim to sow them on the 1st of January basically every year, but it's normally closer to February. But still, it's really, really early. And the chilies that I'm overwintering won't really start putting on any growth or even showing signs of life like at that point. So if I just wait and wait and wait and then nothing happens and they haven't actually survived, I'm going to be too late to sow more. So I am going to sow more, and then if I've just got spares, you can always give them away. Yeah, or I might try some outdoors. Anyway, that's decisions for next year. I'm going to dig these guys out now. There's actually a surprising amount of chilies left on here. I really thought I'd pretty much stripped them bare last time. I'm picking the ones that aren't totally ripe as well, because they're not going to have anything to survive on after I've dug them out and chopped these down. So I'm going to try and ripen these ones at home. So I'm going to be overwintering my chilies in sort of a dormant way rather than trying to keep them growing all winter. Once the night temperatures start dropping, I think it's about sort of 10 degrees at night, they start dropping their leaves anyway. And so what I'm doing is just chopping them back to some pretty sturdy wood. The tips of the growing branches are really quite soft, and I'm just going to take all of that growth off and leave quite a stumpy plant at the bottom. I'm also using this really sharp scoop to kind of hole punch them out of the ground. If you've grown them in pots before, it's sometimes recommended that you
pot them into a smaller pot by kind of pruning back the roots to concentrate the energy. I'm essentially doing that here by just chopping the roots straight down into a shape that's going to fit into my pot. For a number of reasons. Obviously it needs to fit in the pot, but also I'm concentrating that energy. So that's just going to go straight in here. I'm going to rest each one into a pot for the time being, and then I'm going to go and sort them out afterwards.
So then there's a question about this Romano here. It's worth a go, isn't it? Couple of surprise ones down the back. So there are 3 left in here. This little chap I'm not going to save. He was supposed to be a Peruvian white. He wasn't. And also didn't have a great flavour, so I am not going to grow him again. He's just going to come straight out. The big Frigatello pepper is going to come out because it's going mouldy, and I just don't think the specimen's going to survive long enough. And on top of that, it was such a great pepper in terms of early producing that I don't think there would be that much of an advantage to overwintering it, because the reason that I'm really keen to overwinter the chilies is because obviously you sow them so early, and it actually takes such a long time for them to be fruiting and for the chilies to actually be ready. Like, as you can see, I'm still picking them now. But with the Frigatello pepper, I mean, I sowed at the same time as I sowed the chilies, and I was picking them, like, when must it have been? God, it was like May I was picking the chilies off, or not, the peppers off here. So yeah, I don't think it's worth it. Just going to start them again next year. But then this little chap here, which is the second Habarana, he's coming with us too. So I'm going to get him out, get him down, and take him out, and then we've got huge space clear.
Yeah, whatever these ones are, they are not Peruvian whites, but yeah, I'll take them home anyway, but just not worth keeping really. Now this is my beautiful Frigatello. You can see they're not the most beautiful of peppers, but they taste incredible. But can you see, like, it's just going, it's over basically. I mean, look at that, it's gone all mouldy. Okay, so I'm just going to pot up these chilies now into these temporary pots for them. I'm using spent compost. This is compost that I had some of the cucumbers growing in over the summer. So it's basically been stripped of its nutrient content. But for these guys, it's really not going to be a major deal. They don't need anything over the winter. I'm going to water them very, very little, and they're just going to be under the bench in the greenhouse. So these will just stay like this for the winter, and then come spring, as soon as there's any sign of life, I'll start feeding them, and then I will pot them up into bigger pots next year, ready for a full year's growing season, and hopefully a huge amount of chilies. Okay, so they are now transferred into the greenhouse. They've still got quite a lot of leaf on them at the moment, but that will drop fairly soon. Back in the polytunnel, something else I've got to take out today while I'm clearing space is this Thai basil. Up until the last week or so, it's been lush and pickable and usable and lovely, but the little bit of a cold snap we had in the last week or so has just really knocked it out, so it's time for that to go. Just do a little bit of weeding around here. This is right next to the entrance, and it's funny that I haven't had weeds in the rest of the plot, but just here where the wind blows in, it's obviously carried a load of weed seeds in, because this is the only patch that I've got any weeds. So just give that a bit of a clean. Because all this area that was at the back, you know, is totally ready to go. I'm just going to pull out the nasturtiums. It's a pretty one. Bit brash. Love the stripies in the middle. Gorgeous, aren't they? Okay, so the stuff that I've got growing in here already is doing pretty well. The chicory at the front there, and the chard, this rainbow chard, is looking really strong. And on the other side, this stuff's a bit behind the other side. The Luciolus chard is coming on though. Looks like it's going to do something. And now I have all of this space ready to plant the next wave of stuff in. So that's pretty exciting. Job done. Right, the weather really feels like it's changing, so I'm going to get on with my other job that I've got to do this afternoon, which is I've got to strip the Greek gigantes off the arch. So this is these guys. Like I did last week with the bolottis, I'm going to take the green ones off too, just because it's so wet and we don't look like we're going to have a cold, dry winter. It looks like it's going to be long, warm and wet. And they just start rotting before they really dry off. So I'm going to strip the whole lot. So Greek gigantes are a form of runner bean, but instead of producing lots and lots of fairly small beans, they produce 3, sometimes 2 really, really large white beans inside that you cook like a butter bean. They're absolutely delicious. One really good advantage of growing beans up arches, if you have a really successful bean year, which this one wasn't, I have to admit, we had a really disappointing year for beans, but when it is a good bean year, when you've got the green leaves and the plants are really vigorous and then you've got all the green beans as well, it can be really difficult to make sure that you pick all the harvest. So when you're growing them on a teepee, the dangly beans are kind of hanging inside the teepee, so you have to reach through the plants to pick them. Whereas when you're on an arch like this, they just hang down straight in the inside. So it just works brilliantly. It's so good, particularly for French beans, because if you leave French beans on the plant, they stop producing really, really fast. Same with runner beans. Obviously, with these guys, things like the Bellottis and the Greek Gigantes that we're just growing for dry anyway, it doesn't matter because we're leaving them on. But for the ones that you want to be really kind of vigilant with picking, Arches is definitely the way to go. So yeah, like I say, not a great bean year, but this is the second and last picking, and it's not too bad. We'll get something out of it.
Good morning. It is Sunday and it's absolutely magnificent up here this morning. It's bright sunshine and we have a really long to-do list. So yeah, better get going.
Just gonna have a quick check in the greenhouse because it looks really warm, and yep, it feels really toasty warm in here. What does the thermometer say? 26.4. So these are some pak choi I've got, which are going to go in the space that I cleared yesterday in the poly. Bit of stray coriander. And then I've got a load of really, really leggy cress. These little chillies have suddenly decided they're going to start producing things again. And this, I'm really pleased with. This is some thyme that I grew from seed this year. It's going to go out at the beginning of next year when the weather warms up. Chilies are still looking all right. These are the aubergines. I can't believe they're still going. And the sweet potato, this time last year it was yellow and we dug it out, but this year it seems to be fine. So anyway, the main job that we're doing today is we're going to prepare the asparagus bed for winter. As you can see, it's all gone over, it's all yellow, and it's basically ready to be chopped down. So that's what we're doing today. I love this, the asparagus ferns. They are just like golden feathers.
Where do you want me to start?
We'll just do it as we go.
So all we're going to do is to just chop them down to begin with. I mean, essentially you could just leave these on over winter, but because they're quite top heavy, what they don't like is being moved around in the ground a lot because it disrupts the roots. So we just chop them down to stop them being blown over in the wind. And we want to leave about 6 inches at the bottom. You don't have to leave 6 inches at the bottom, but it just makes things easier for us because we can see where they're going to start coming up next year. We've got about, I think it was 9 really quite strong crowns in here. There's space for more, but when we planted them, not all of them took. So it's really helpful to leave some sticks just above the ground because it means that we know where to start looking for the asparagus when it emerges in spring. So weeded and cleared. Next thing to do is just to mulch it all over with this well-rotted horse manure. So I said that this year we're really trying to make more of a transition towards green manures and that kind of thing, rather than relying on horse manure, because we had the issue with the aminopyralid on the broad beans at the beginning of the year. But we have been using this particular organic manure for a good number of years, and that was the only time we've ever had a problem, and I'm hoping it was just an anomaly. We are still definitely trying to move away from reliance on horse manure, but for the asparagus, we don't have enough compost, that we don't make enough of our own compost to be able to mulch the whole lot, and we have never had a problem with it before, so we are trusting that it was a one-off. Wish us luck. So we've got this kind of like stepping stone system across this asparagus bed, which works really well for a number of reasons. Firstly, it stops you walking on the soil and compacting it. But it also makes it much easier when you're picking the asparagus, because asparagus, you plant the crown in one place and it tends to kind of migrate and it moves around, and you get little spikes of asparagus cropping up all over the place. And we used to have kind of paths in here separating them, but they came up under the paths and it was really tricky. But this way, you know where to step, so you're not going to snap any spears off, and just makes it so much easier. We're going to use this same technique in the wildflower garden that we're making on the other side too. So there we have it. That is the 2020 asparagus growth cut down. You're right, Delph. What are you doing, Delphi? Why aren't you inside?
Now we just got to work out what to do with the stems, because normally we would have them as a bonfire, like celebrating winter coming, but that can't be done anymore, unfortunately. So then again, we might try and incorporate them into a barbecue. It's about, it's just coming up to 2 o'clock, and we tend to lose the sun on our allotment in the winter at about 2. So I think it's time to head home for lunch. Well, it is Sunday evening and it's pretty nippy. I mean, it was such a beautiful day today, but the skies have remained clear tonight. So basically the earth has lost its heat and it's really, really cold outside. Hence, I am competing with the cat for who can get closest to the fire. But I am spending my Sunday evening shelling the dry beans, having a glass of wine and keeping warm.
Here's one that has actually gone rotten, unfortunately. This is what I was worried they would all be like if I left them on the plant. But the rest of these are looking absolutely fine. So I'm just going to throw these into a bag and stick them in the freezer.
So yeah, the chillies. I'm so pleased I got that done. That's been on my mind as something that I really, really did need to get done. So that's really good. The problem with me saying habanero instead of habanero is the guy who first gave me the habanero chili seeds called them habaneros, and it had habanero written on the outside, and it's stuck. It's really like wheedled its way into my head. So sorry about that. That must be really, really annoying when someone repeatedly says the wrong word. Sorry about that.
But yeah, high hopes for those chillies. That would be really good, wouldn't it, to get some really good, solid, mature chilli trees. Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to go back through the beetroot suggestions, which is really terrible of me, but this week just seems to have whizzed past. Like you can see, I only had the 2 days of the vlog, so just Saturday and Sunday, and I just feel like time is like at the moment. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to go back over the suggestions that you made for the beetroot, which is really annoying because I actually was like, I was gearing up to make a big old seed order yesterday evening, but then I realised I hadn't actually correlated any of that stuff, and I was just like, oh God, yeah, sorry. I'll get on it next week, I promise. So for only having 2 days up at the plot this week, I think we did get quite a lot done. 2 of the really important jobs that has been kind of on top of my head for ages that I needed to get done. So the asparagus and the chillies coming out. I feel like we can really start moving forward a bit with the polytunnel for winter now that we've got the chillies out of the way. So, and also I was really surprised when we got that back bed cleared quite how much space is left. So I think we're going to be all right. I think all of my pak choi will fit in there, which is not what I was expecting, so that's pretty good. So yeah, I do think we got quite a lot done this weekend, which is nice because sometimes when you're short on time, it just doesn't work out. Sometimes you can be up at the allotment for 4 days a week and achieve absolutely nothing. So yeah, 2 days and getting the asparagus done and the chillies out of the poly. I'm pretty pleased with that, to be honest. If you enjoyed the vlog, give me the thumbs up, and if you're not a subscriber already, think about subscribing, because I was pretty amazed to notice that we'd gone over 2,500 subscribers last week, which is pretty amazing. So cheers, thank you. And that's about all I've got really. I'm going to work tomorrow, so it is an early night for me. I'm probably going to finish this glass of wine, watch this log burn down, and put the podcast I was listening to this afternoon back on, and then crawl into bed. So I'll see you next week.